I'm Jim McGilvery, and this is The Pipe Box, your source for all things piping. If you find this video useful, please give it a like, and please subscribe to this YouTube channel to see more videos like this. You can print out the music we're going to use today by going back to the description of this video on my YouTube channel. You'll find a link to a PDF there. Today we are going to talk about the lowly B doubling. Above my shoulder, you see two bars of music. In the first bar, you see the B doubling written out in separate notes so that you can see exactly what grace notes are used. In the second bar, you'll see the B doubling written out as you would see it in a tune. The arrows here show you exactly where the beat falls when you play a B doubling on the beat. As with all doublings, the beat happens when the first grace note hits the chanter. Your G finger hits the chanter when your foot hits the floor. As with all doublings, this first grace note is absolutely paramount. My playing experience has taught me that if you don't hit the first G grace note squarely, there's a good chance that your doubling won't work at all. The second most important thing in a B doubling is to put some space between the two grace notes. Make sure there is a very tiny grace note B between the G and the D grace note. Don't let those two grace notes fall on top of one another. I'm going to give you an exercise now that will stress the importance of the first grace note in the doubling. Let's hear the exercise now, and then we'll talk a little bit about how it works. In this exercise, we start with an accurate and rhythmical G grace note. By accurate, what I mean is this. If we are going from, say, low G up to B with a G grace note, to play that grace note accurately, you lift the low A, the B, and the G fingers at the same time, and then the G finger goes back down. 3 fingers up, 1 down. Bum, bum. That's how you play an accurate grace note going up. To play an accurate grace note going down, let's say we wanted to play a B doubling from C, I'm going to lift the G finger, and then the C finger and the G finger are going to hit the chanter at the same time. So when you're going down from one note to another, fingers hit the chanter at the same time to make an accurate grace note. When you're going up from one note to another, fingers leave the chanter at the same time to make an accurate grace note. That's what I mean by an accurate grace note. What I mean by a rhythmical grace note is, as you see in the exercise, when the G grace note hits the chanter, my foot hits the floor. Be careful when you play this exercise that you make the G grace note exactly the same, whether you're playing just the G grace note or the doubling. Don't let the doubling mess with your G grace note. Then after you're done playing your rhythmical G grace note, you're going to leave a little space, and then you're going to play the D grace note. Avoid a crushed doubling where the grace notes are on top of one another like this. Strive for this kind of separation. One other thing you may have noticed is that when I played the doubling from high G, I can't play a high G grace note, so I play a high A grace note. High A grace note instead of a G grace note, playing the B doubling from high G. I'd like you to listen to the first exercise once more, and I want you to listen to the uniformity of the G grace note and the separation between the two grace notes. Then we'll move on to our second exercise. That exercise gives you a fairly simple context in which to work on your B doublings. The doubling is played after a long note, so you have lots of time to think about it. In fact, in the real world of piping, doublings are often played after short notes, and playing a doubling after a short note is a skill you need to develop. What I'm going to play for you now is the same exercise as number 1, but with some dots and cuts included. Let's listen. Everything we talked about in exercise 1 still applies here. You need an accurate G grace note, and you need some space between your G grace note and your D grace note. If you have a little bit of problem with this exercise, you may want to just stick with exercise number 1 until the B doubling becomes very ingrained in your fingers and in your mind. Be patient when you're developing technique. One other point I would like to make here is that sometimes in an effort to make the doubling nice and open, the piper overdoes this and ends up just playing 2 separate grace notes. That's not really a doubling, that's just a D grace note with a G grace note before it. Play the doubling like this. And make sure the G grace note feels the same way whether you're playing the doubling or not. Let's listen to exercise 2, the pointed exercise, once more. I have one more exercise to give you, and that is a tune simulation. I call it a tune simulation because it has note combinations very common to 2/4 marches. If you're comfortable with exercise 1 and exercise 2, then exercise 3 is a natural progression. If you're not comfortable with exercise 1 or 2 yet, be patient, stick with them. Exercise 3 will be a future project. Here's the exercise now. There are 2 beats in every bar, and the B doubling happens on the beat each time. So your G grace note finger is going to hit the chanter, and your foot is going to hit the floor twice in each bar. As usual, avoid crushing the doubling by putting the grace notes too close together. And avoid playing the doubling ahead of the beat. This happens typically when pipers put the D grace note on the beat rather than the G grace note on the beat. So a B doubling with the G grace note on the beat sounds like this. If the D grace note is on the beat, it sounds like this. G grace note on the beat all the time. Those are the basics of the B doubling. I have more doubling exercises and instructions in my Rhythmic Fingerwork Technical Tutor, which you can get from my own website, McGilvery Piping, or from most dealers worldwide. Good luck with your B doublings. Please remember, don't play faster than your hands can manage. When things fall apart, the #1 rule is slow down. From me, Jim McGilvery at the Pipe Box, good piping.